Before we get into tonight's case, welcome back to Season 2 of The Last Known Moment. Welcome to Natural Queen 77 TV. The following episode contains discussions of a missing persons case, domestic violence, and gun violence. Listener discretion is advised. Please note that the stories covered in this podcast are retold based on publicly available information, court documents, news reporting, and media coverage. While we strive for accuracy, the true crime genre can be complex, and some details remain disputed or unconfirmed. No individual named in this episode has been charged with a crime in connection with Khadijah's disappearance, and all individuals are presumed innocent unless proven otherwise in a court of law. I'm your host, and this is The Last Known Moment, Season 2, Episode 3, The Disappearance of Khadijah Rose Britton. A note on sourcing before we start. This episode draws on records and reporting from the FBI's Most Wanted database, the Bureau of Indian Affairs Missing and Murdered Unit, the California Department of Justice's Missing Persons Registry, the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office, the Mendocino Voice, the Press Democrat, KZYX Public Radio, KRCR News, and the Charlie Project Case Archive. And I want to flag something directly right up front. There is a post circulating on social media right now claiming Khadijah's remains have been found. I need to be completely clear with you as of this recording. That claim is not supported by any statement from the FBI, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, or the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office. Every official source still lists her case as open and her whereabouts unknown. We don't repeat unverified rumors as fact on this show, especially not ones that could give a grieving family false hope. Let's talk about who Khadijah was. Khadijah Rose Britton was born on April 22, 1994. She was a member of the Round Valley Indian tribes of Wailaki and Yuki descent and grew up in and around Covelo, a small, close-knit community tucked into the mountains of Mendocino County, California, on the Round Valley Indian Reservation. Friends and family called her Deej, short for Khadijah. By 2018, she was 23 years old. Here's the last known moment. On the 7th of February 2018, Khadijah was at a friend's home in Covelo. Witnesses told investigators that her ex-boyfriend, Negie Tony Fallis IV, showed up armed with a gun, along with his new girlfriend, Antonia Bautista Dawson. This didn't come out of nowhere. Khadijah had a documented history of domestic violence with Fallis. Weeks earlier, she'd reported that he attacked her with a hammer. She went to police. And then, in a pattern that domestic violence advocates will tell you is tragically common, she later told police she didn't want to move forward with charges against him. On the night of February 7th, witnesses say Fallis confronted Khadijah, a physical struggle broke out, and she was forced into a vehicle at gunpoint. She has not been seen or heard from since. Her family reported her missing days later, and the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office opened its investigation. Officers logged it under case number 18-4135. 10 days after she disappeared, Fallis was arrested and charged with multiple felonies, including kidnapping, attempted murder, and domestic violence. But in June of 2018, Mendocino County District Attorney David Easter dropped the kidnapping, attempted murder, and domestic violence charges, citing insufficient evidence. Fallis's bail dropped from $400,000 to $35,000. He ultimately pleaded no contest to a reduced charge of being a felon in possession of a firearm. Bautista Dawson pleaded no contest to a related firearm charge. Neither has ever been charged in connection with Khadijah's disappearance itself. 2 years later, in June of 2020, Fallis was arrested again, this time found in a parked car in Covelo with a loaded stolen handgun, an illegally modified assault rifle, and drug paraphernalia. It wasn't connected to Khadijah's case directly, but it kept his name and his history of violence in the headlines. Meanwhile, the search for Khadijah continued. the FBI joined the investigation. Search teams combed Round Valley for any sign of her in one search effort. Investigators even drained a pond near her last known location after a cadaver K9 showed interest, but no remains or new leads turned up. The reward for information has grown over the years, from an initial $50,000 toward as much as $85,000, offered through a combination of her family, the FBI, and community donors, though the exact figures have varied across reporting. In February of 2021, on the third anniversary of her disappearance, the Mendocino County Sheriff and the FBI held a joint virtual community briefing, hoping fresh eyes on the case might shake loose a new lead. By 2022, 4 years out, the Press Democrat ran a piece on the Britton family, who say the case was hampered from the start by a slow law enforcement response, and who have continued showing up every year to Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons Awareness Day, laying out the symbolic red dress that's become a national marker for this crisis. And that crisis is the backdrop this case sits inside. California has one of the highest numbers of missing and murdered Indigenous persons cases in the country, and Khadijah's case, alongside others, helped drive the creation of task forces like Sacramento's Missing and Murdered Indigenous Persons Task Force, aimed at giving cold cases like hers real, sustained investigative attention. As of this recording, Khadijah Rose Britton's case remains open. She has not been found. No one has been charged in her disappearance. And despite what you may have seen shared online, there is no confirmed recovery of remains. Her family is still waiting for real answers, not rumors. If you have any information about Khadijah Rose Britton, please contact the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office at 707-463-4086 or the Sheriff's Tip Line at 707-234-2100. You can also reach out to the FBI's San Francisco Field Office or submit a tip to the Bureau of Indian Affairs Missing and Murdered Unit by texting 847-411 or calling 1-833-560-2065. That's this episode of The Last Known Moment. Khadijah Rose Britton was 23 years old, a daughter, a member of the Round Valley Indian tribes, a young woman with a life in front of her, and for over 7 years, her community has never stopped saying her name. If this case moved you, share it, and if you haven't already, follow Natural Queen 77 TV wherever you're listening. We'll be back next week with another case that deserves to be remembered. Until then, take care of each other. Hey, welcome back. Pull up a chair, because today we're going back to 1982 to one of the most terrifying and